Welcome to this on-demand CPD session, Empowering Year 2 Success, Preparing for the Occupational Specialism in Science with a focus on laboratory science. This session is designed to support you in planning and delivering Year 2 with confidence. We'll walk through key expectations, explore assessment strategies, and look at practical ways to support learners in becoming confident, safe, and reflective scientific practitioners. In Year 2, the focus shifts entirely to the occupational specialism, and for laboratory sciences that means a deep dive into scientific techniques, data accuracy, troubleshooting, and critical analysis. All of this needs to be in place before the March assessment window, so let's break it down. In Year 1, learners were absorbing scientific principles and building foundational knowledge. In Year 2, the focus flips. Now it's all about doing science. We'll need to perform lab techniques independently and safely, work with real equipment and real consequences, and reflect with clarity on what went well and what didn't. Assessment isn't just about ticking boxes, it's about showing judgment, care, and precision. And your role shifts too. You'll still deliver knowledge, but now you're coaching for performance, building habits, managing risks, and preparing learners to think and act like technicians. Let's take a look at the 3 performance outcomes for laboratory science. These drive everything that happens in Year 2. Performance 1 is perform scientific techniques to collect experimental data. This includes lab skills like titration, aseptic techniques, filtration, and chromatography. PO2 is plan, review, implement, and improve scientific tasks. Learners must show they can structure their work methodically and make refinements. Performance outcome 3 is to identify and resolve equipment and data issues, whether it's faulty readings, contamination, or errors in method. Learners need to problem solve with confidence. These aren't isolated goals. They all overlap in every practical, so our teaching should reflect that. Here are some strategies to try. Spiral planning is a curriculum design approach where key concepts or skills are revisited at increasing levels of complexity over time. Rather than being taught once and left behind, it's ideal for embedding practical competencies like lab techniques in science. Building weekly logbooks where learners record their technique, risks, and improvements. Use scenario-based learning. For example, your pH meter is reading inconsistently. What do you do? Creating short pre-lab planning tasks that help learners justify their approach. And where possible, bring in industry voices or examples, showing real application in pharmaceuticals, food sciences, or environmental monitoring. Help learners connect their lab work with real-world outcomes. So let's begin with assignment 1, a written assessment. So this assessment focuses on how learners prepare for, plan, and improve laboratory techniques. All through written documentations, it assesses performance outcome 2 and 3 with 3 distinct tasks making up the evidence. Task 1 is the literature review. Learners are required to select and summarise scientific sources that justify their chosen technique. This is all about showing awareness of scientific context and building the rationale for what they plan to do. Task 2 is the planning documentation. Here learners produce a full method in SOP style that identify their independent and dependent and control variables and lay out what equipment and materials they'll need, including plans to reduce risk. Task 3 is the risk assessment, safety considerations, evaluations and justifications. So learners evaluate potential hazards and propose ways to mitigate them. This includes cost considerations and any ethical or environmental impact relevant to the method. This is where learners reflect on the feasibility of their plans, predict any issues, and explain why their chosen approach is both safe and scientifically valid. To prepare learners effectively, provide scaffolded SOP and risk assessment tasks early in the year. Set literature review activities using provided sources to model critical selection. build comfort with hypothesis writing and variable identification, and include peer review cycles. They help learners spot gaps and improve drafts before submission. Overall, this assignment sets the tone for professional laboratory preparation, showing that learners not only know what they're doing, but why they're doing it. So assignment 2 focuses on the live supervised practical elements of the laboratory science occupational specialism. It's made up of two separate supervised practicals known as Part A and Part B. These are completed under exam conditions, where learners demonstrate the full cycle of scientific practical work from planning and execution to data handling and evaluation, all while using the standard operating procedures, or SOPs, and demonstrating traceable lab practice. Part A and B are structured around about 5 core tasks which students are typically expected to complete during each practical. These will change from series to series and themes, but this gives you the general structure of the last few assessment series. So plan and prepare. Learners begin by developing a method using SOP. They must select the appropriate equipment, identifying variables and address safety requirement. This task forms the foundation of confident, compliant lab work. Past assessments, the next task would be to perform and record. Here learners carry out the practical accurately and safely. They are expected to record traceable data, including sample IDs, times, datas and values, mirroring the rigour of industry standard practices. The next common stage is the review and improve. So students are then asked to reflect on the validity and safety of their method, responding to prompts or questions about how the task could be improved. This tests their ability to think critically under pressure and demonstrate practical understanding. Another common step is data handling. This task involves processing results and using appropriate formats and applying scientific terminology. Learners evaluate accuracy of their data and are expected to handle common statistical concepts and conventions. Finally, students often have to then interpret and conclude. They must analyse the outcomes, identify any anomalies, explain their findings and draw conclusions using accurate scientific language and logical reasoning. These 5 areas collectively generally assess PO2 and PO3, which are performance and outcomes linked to practical scientific skills and problem solving. To help learners feel confident and fluent in this type of assessment, several preparation strategies are recommended. Scaffold planning using SOP templates, peer-assessed rehearsal activities that focus on traceability, simulated datasets to help practice and analysis skills, tutor questioning alongside observation checklists during mock sessions. All this preparation helps to ensure learners don't just complete the practical, they understand why each step matters and how to reflect on the quality of their work. This assessment truly reflects the real-world expectations of laboratory science, ensuring learners are not only competent but confident in handling scientific techniques in professional environments. Assignment 3 is a supervised written task where learners apply their scientific understanding to analyse a real-world dataset. Often linked to environmental or field-based investigations, it's designed to assess their ability to evaluate, interpret, and improve scientific data collection analysis, all within a controlled 3-hour window. This assessment contributes generally to performance outcome 2 and 3, and typically consists of 5 structured written tasks. Based on past papers, the common themes across the tasks are evaluating data reliability and accuracy. So learners assess how trustworthy the data is, often comparing field results to lab standards. Identifying types of errors. They distinguish between random and systematic errors using contextual evidence from the dataset. Justifying potential causes of error. This requires scientific reasoning to explain why certain errors may have occurred in the method or measurement process. Suggesting how to investigate or improve techniques, learners provide practical and evidence-based suggestions to improve data collection or reduce uncertainty. analysing data using statistics and drawing justified conclusion. This may include graphing, applying thresholds, and interpreting mean, standard deviation, and statistical comparisons, all written with clarity and purpose. To prepare learners effectively for this task, we recommend the following strategies. Use mock reviews of flawed dataset to build learners' analytical mindset. Provide templates for identifying error types and structuring improvement suggestions. Include graphing tasks with thresholds, commentary, and justification practice. Teach key statistical concepts like standard deviation and mean without overloading them with memorized formulas. Most importantly, model a clear writing style, structure responses with reasoning, evidence, and justified claims. Assignment 3 challenges learners to combine their practical science knowledge with written communication and critical thinking, and with the right preparation, they'll be ready to respond and confidently and fluently. So now let's take a look at how the delivery of Year 2 for the Laboratory Science Occupational Specialism might be structured across the academic year. In Term 1, Part 1, we begin by introducing the key performance outcomes, such as Performance Outcome 2 and 3, through low-stakes planning-based tasks. This includes introducing the written assessment for A1 and getting learners familiar with developing SOPs, identifying variables, and conducting risk assessment. We also start spiralling in key lab techniques early, such as titration and colorimetry, so that learners gain regular exposure. Alongside this, we introduce basic data accuracy and error analysis tasks to lay the foundation for later assessments. Moving into Term 1, Part 2, we continue building towards completion of the A1 written assessment. This is also when we begin mock practicals for Assignment 2, focusing on one core technique at a time. At the same time, learners start creating technical logs for traceability and recording practice, and we introduce early data analysis tasks to prepare them for the written evaluation in Assignment 3. Reflection becomes more structured here, with learners starting to evaluate their own practical performance using scaffolded prompts. In Term 2, Part 1, we aim to complete and finalise preparation for the A1 written assessment. This is also the window for running full mock versions of both A2 practicals, including Part A and B, under observation using checklists. We also begin explicit preparation for Assignment 3 here by rehearsing structured written responses for all 5 tasks, including evaluating accuracy, identifying error types, and suggesting improvements. We can also use mock data sets and statistical tools like standard deviation and t-test explanations to give learners confidence with the data handling elements. And finally, in Term 2, Part 2, we move into the controlled assessment period. This is where learners will complete and submit the final A1 written assessment, sit their 2 live A2 practical activities, and complete the supervised Assignment 3 written evaluation using the provided dataset. These assessment windows will also move into Term 3. By structuring delivery in this way, we can ensure learners are well prepared, confident, and familiar with both the format and expectations of the assessments well in advance of the live sessions. So the best Year 2 delivery for laboratory science is active, evidence-driven, and technique-led. Learners need repeated, realistic opportunities to plan, perform, and evaluate with scientific thinking embedded into every step. Effective Year 2 delivery in laboratory science should include spiral technique development with key practical skills like titration, dilution, and distillation revisited throughout the year. Scaffolding should gradually reduce over time as learners build confidence, with regular rotation of tasks mapped to PO1 to PO3 to reinforce skill retention and transfer. Scaffolded documentation, especially for A1 and A3, is essential, using structured templates for SOPs and risk assessments, alongside targeted activities to help learners identify variables and contextual safety concerns. Weekly planning clinics and peer feedback sessions can strengthen documentation quality and learner ownership. For practical rehearsal and observation, so A2 focus, timed practicals should be supported by peer and tutor feedback, observation checklists, and routine practice of safe handling, traceability, and escalation procedures. To support data analysis and reliability, so A2, Part B and A3, learners should work with simulated data sets that include anomalies or errors. This enables them to practice identifying reliability issues and apply statistical tools like mean, standard deviation and t-tests within realistic lab contexts. Embedding regular reflection techniques and routines is also key. Encourage learners to reflect after each practical using structured prompts, scientific terminology and improvement logic. Logs should be used to track decisions and justifications over time, preparing them for evaluative assessments. Delivery should be guided by backward planning from the assessment briefs, aligning tasks with the required evidence and using mark schemes to structure delivery. Colour coding tasks by performance outcome can help learners clearly understand what they're building towards. Finally, integrate peer feedback and moderation activities. Encourage learners to collaboratively mark anonymised samples. Practice giving assessment-aligned feedback and apply the mark scheme language confidently to their own work. The aim of this? To make technical competence automatic and reflective thinking instinctive. So building assessment fluency is about making the assessment criteria feel familiar and give learners the tool to succeed with confidence. Start by framing your formative practicals in the language of assessment. Use terms from mark scheme and talk openly about what makes a response strong. Use videos of student technique either from your own teaching or exemplars and pause to analyse them with your learners. Encourage them to use the mark scheme commentary to reflect on performance. What would score well and why? To develop analytical writing, start by having learners colour code their written responses. Highlight where they've addressed planning, safety, review or improvement. This is especially helpful in distinguishing PO2 from PO3 and understanding how they work together. Incorporate exemplar comparison tasks, share 2 responses, one strong, one weaker, and ask learners to justify which is better and why. This builds a deeper understanding of assessment expectations. Finally, introduce lab coach roles. Learners act as peer assessors, giving feedback to their classmates using examiner style criteria. This not only supports the learner being observed, but gives their peer coach a chance to internalise what quality looks like. Together, these strategies build fluency, not just in technique, but in the thinking and reflection that assessment requires. So practical assessments can be high pressure, especially when the smallest error can affect results. Support them by normalising error as learning. What went wrong? What did you do next? Include well-being prompts in logbooks. What felt hard today? What am I proud of? Using short debriefs after mock assessments to rebuild confidence. Structuring pre-task visualization or breathing routines. A confident learner is one who feels safe to learn from their mistakes. There is a lot of support available, so please make use of these. So chief exam reports, student exemplars, upcoming CPD sessions, our YouTube channel. You're building the next generation of scientists, so let's help them become not just safe and accurate, but self-aware, adaptable and assessment ready. Thank you for everything you do. Before we finish, we'd really appreciate a moment of your time to give us some feedback. Please scan the QR code or copy the link provided to complete a short form. It helps us understand what's working and what we can improve, so we can keep delivering sessions that support you and your learners. Just remember to include the title of the session, Empowering Year 2 Success in T-Level Science. Thank you again for attending and all the incredible work that you do with your learners. So to bring us to the end of Empowering Year 2 Success, thank you so much for your time and engagement today. We hope this session has given you some practical tools and insights and inspiration to support your learners through the occupational specialism in science. As always, we're here to support you, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you again for all that you do.